Welcome back to Performance Lab. Today's episode is one of those conversations that starts right in the middle of real life. I'm sitting down with my good friend, Sam Syed. Sam's a serial entrepreneur. He's built companies, chased growth, done that whole thing. But we actually jump in talking about something more real, his dog, who's nearing the end of her life. And honestly, that sets the tone for everything that follows. From there, we talk about gratitude, inner peace, and what changes when you stop defining success only by what you're building and start paying attention to how present you feel in your life. We discuss Sam's experience with ayahuasca, but really, this is a conversation about slowing down, cutting through the noise, and being with what actually matters. This is one of my all time favorite podcast conversations because I know how easy it is to look good on paper and still feel disconnected underneath. No preaching or hype, just two friends talking honestly about life, loss, growth, and figuring things out as we go. Stick around because a simple moment at the start of this conversation changes where the whole thing goes. And notice the arc from grief to gratitude as the conversation progresses. Let's dive in.
I have to walk the walk after seeing it and realize that. And I think more of a celebration of life as opposed to grieving for the rest of your life, because death is inevitable, right? And so why do you spend your time grieving for the whole time? It should be fond memories that you have and being grateful that you had that time, as opposed to sadness that you don't have that time anymore, and carry that sadness until you're no longer here. So it's especially now, I believe that we keep regenerating in different forms, and the energy lives on. It's like yeah, but nonetheless, she's a family member, and I've personally known her for nearly 10 years, and you know, she's known Lauren longer than I've known Lauren. So it's still sad to see a little doggy struggling.
Yeah. Have you felt grief previously in your life?
Yeah.
So it's not the first time you're kind of facing these emotions.
Yeah, I felt it with my with my grandma, who she didn't speak English. She was Portuguese. And, I had flashbacks of when as kids, you do silly things as kids, and silly things to wind people up when you're young. You don't realize. And I never got to say sorry to her. So, there was that kind of grief that, I'm sure she knew because I was young, but still, it still hurt that I never got to say sorry. I'm sure she knew that I was just, a little kid, right? Like, but being fortunate in a sense, my parents are still here. They're in their mid-70s, and they're both aging, and my mum's getting harder of health, but haven't experienced the bulk of my grief yet. I've got 5 brothers, and thank God they're all still alive. And when you have a bigger, some people have one sibling that passed away, right? I've got 5, and they're all still here, and in the crazy world that we live in. And so I think it's I've been very fortunate in that sense.
It's interesting to kick off a conversation like this because I think there's moments that we experience and for a day or a few days, it changes us. And then we snap right back to our habits and our routine. Um and then there's, like an example would be like a health scare, right? You go to the doctor and he tells you, you got to do these, and you're really diligent for a couple of days, and you just go right back to your normal habits, or you
Sure.
you face a death, you go to a funeral and you're like, oh, this is going to change my life, my perspective on life and death. And maybe you're not fearing death, but you're fearing not living, and then you go right back to you revert to what you were doing. And what I've seen in you in just the last year I've known you is a shift that is different from that. One that is not, I think, not externally driven, but an internally driven shift. The way you're thinking, the way you're talking, the way you're embodying what you or stand for, I think, and how you live seems to me externally fundamentally different than it was a year or so, a year and a half ago when we first met. And
I mean, that's a
so
fact. Yeah. Yeah.
let's let's uh let's start with maybe where you were, where you are, and then how you got there.
You want to go straight into, I mean, I know what it was. It's what I did back in July and what I did 9 weeks ago and what I did 2 days ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's where the mental bulk of the change is. Do you want to start
Yeah,
there
I
or do
know.
you?
But before we describe the process or I want to just characterize before and after quickly, if that would be, because we could spend the bulk of the time on the process, but I just want from your perspective, because I'm reflecting what I've seen, but I wonder if you could just characterize quickly where your mind was before and where your mind is now.
I think, I think my mind, along with 95% of the human race, is lost. We don't know who we are. We don't know where we are. We don't know what our purpose is. We're lost in financial consumption. We're lost in FOMO. We're lost in self belief, self worth. We're lost in keeping up with the Joneses. We're lost in purpose, just lost in our purpose. And I think, I had a very successful career and I've lived life in different countries and grown different companies. And on the external, on paper, one can read and articulate or infer that I'm someone that I might not be because, I've traveled around the world and I've done all this cool stuff. But if I'm not appreciating the stuff that I've done and I'm not appreciating where I've gone, then you're just living almost like in the matrix of a dead um, organism, just living and not realizing why they're living and what they're doing. Um, successfully got married, successfully had kids, successfully done this and that, but not really appreciating and seeing my kids and appreciating my wife on a day-to-day basis. Um, so that's where I was before. And where I am now is thoughtful, immense in gratitudes, present. I don't just look at people, I see people, stare into their eyes and, try to understand what they're feeling and why they're saying the things they're saying. And in a place of being a servant and elevating people, being a light in people, um, and showing them the light and being a keeper of the light in that sense, and really fulfilling my purpose on who I am, and through that purpose, enjoying the best life I can possibly enjoy, and with less fears and less FOMO and less bad habits, less bad food. We all know the exterior. Um, we all know the exterior words of "keep your body like a temple," or the exterior words of, you know, anything we say, any advice that we give in life. But when you actually look in and see the internal, which I have seen, you understand why those words throughout history have been there and why, to your point, we don't adopt those words because we're just listening to the words. Um, we know what they mean. We're not idiots, but we don't implement them. And the reason why we're not implementing them is because you're not seeing the internal. And now I see the internal reasoning behind things and on my last journey, which I'm sure we'll go through, um, a glimpse of what I saw was the food that I put into my body, and why it's so bad, and what it's doing to my ability to think clearly, and and how it's jeopardizing my ability to move and feel, as opposed to cleaner foods, and saying no to more processed foods and saying yes to more vegetables and food that actually heal your body. But I actually saw the healing. I was in it, and it was wild. But anyway, that's where I was previously, and that's where I am now.
Beautiful. I want to just reflect back what I heard, just to maybe expand just a little bit. It sounds like you've kind of gone from leading with your head to leading with your heart,
Yeah.
and you found your purpose. And I want to hear what that is. And I also think that you didn't say that, but I bet you're saying no to more things that were yeses before. And because it
100%.
sounds like there's a clarity, right? And a lot of times when we're looking to improve things, we're looking to add things. And it's come up over and over and over the last few years working with clients. And just this morning on a call I was on, that the clarity comes from, and the improvement comes from doing less, not doing more. So what is your purpose?
I think my purpose is to be a light. It's to bring joy and lift people, and whether you want to call it coaching or shaman esque, it's to be a net positive to the world and to the people around me, and to use my life, this form of the life that I'm in right now, to to remember who I am and who I was, and to allow people to live the best versions of themselves.
I know this is just the beginning for you, but I already see that your light is shining brighter, and you're modeling that already. So, um, it's been, you said your first retreat was in July, and we were talking then weekly, and I saw it in just, almost an immediate shift that has stuck, right? So it's been a short amount of time, but it's also been a long enough amount of time for it to fade. And I've seen your light grow and grow over those 6, 7 months. So I'm reflecting back to you that what you're setting out to do, what your purpose is being fulfilled.
Thank you.
I know you're fresh off this retreat, and your third ayahuasca retreat, and I want you to lead us where we go next. What do you want to share about that, about the takeaways, about the process, about any of it?
Some things I won't share because they're hard to understand if you're not in the ceremony. Um, so I'll try to give you the most human response in this form that we're in now, and back to the world that we're in, the present, and see if I can find ways of explaining it the best I can. But let's just say my word for this year was expansion, and I'll set on that word. It took me a while to come up with that word this year. Last year was metamorphosis. So I appreciate everything you just shared. And you've seen the light grow, and what you just explained. If I can relay some words back to you, is I saw you pre ayahuasca and post ayahuasca, and the immediate, and the I noticed immediately the change. And I'd like to think that if there was a word like metamorphosis, which literally means the biggest change and transformation, I accomplished that goal, which was great. This year was expansion. I went into a deep meditation, sober meditation, for a good friend of mine, that hopefully you're going to be at and experiencing next month. And I closed my eyes and I saw myself in this open field. And for the first time, I wanted to run and in all directions without a reason for running. I wasn't running to get money. I wasn't running to go to this big party. I wasn't running to go to this 3 Michelin star restaurant. I wasn't running for anything. I was just running. And that's where this expansion was coming from. And so I was pretty set on this word. It wasn't growth. Growth is up. Growth actually is more kind of financial linked these days. You're looking for growth. It can be, muscular growth and gym wise, but people think growth, I'm going to grow something. But this was expansion in all sides. So I was pretty chuffed with that word. I was like, this is the word. And in the ceremony on the first night, the ayahuasca said, this isn't your word. It's not your word. I was like, all right, man, I'm listening. What's my word? And then it came to be gratitude. And I realized I've been grateful in the external. You might hear me regularly talk about the external and the internal. This is my interpretation. And when I say that, the external is the word gratitude itself. Gratitude. I'm grateful. That's an external feeling. You're picking up the word gratitude. I'm saying it now. You're hearing that word and you're thinking, oh yeah, of course. I'm grateful. I'm grateful for you, Michael. I'm grateful for you. And when you're truly grateful, you're like, okay, I'm grateful that I'm alive. I'm grateful for this, but you're only speaking and hearing on the external. I saw the internal of the word grateful, and it filled me up with an infinite burst of energy and light and love. And I realized I've never actually been grateful in my life, ever, actually. Now, when I say that, of course, I've been grateful, but not truly grateful. I've never had a journal to be grateful. I've never meditated for gratefulness. And if I have, it's been a one-off. And so I realized that almost in the type of pruning sense, this is a celebration of my life thus far. And it was time to appreciate and be grateful. And then I wrote down this quote that it was telling me, which was, expansion without purpose is just noise. Expansion without purpose is just noise. And so the noise was, I'm just going to expand for the sake of expanding. But what it was showing me was energy has to come within first to be released, whether we like it or not. We're actually selflessly selfish or selfishly selfless. We can't do something without having a selfish feeling first, actually. I could be wrong, but this is what my understanding of divine medicine has taught me. Even someone that gives millions of dollars away to a nonprofit, they're doing it because it makes them feel good. That's the inward energy before it comes out. You have to feel good. It has to go in before it goes out. So for me, it was the internal gratitude to then get the full expansion that I need. So my word this year is gratitude. That was my first night. The rest of it was just immense feeling and tears of gratitude. And I wrote a poem that night during the ceremony, which I read out the next morning during the sharing circle, which included every single person in that room. And I was very thankful enough to know everyone, because I'm hand plucking these people. So it was just an awesome extra selfishly selfless experience, because I'm absorbing everyone's transformation as well, and realizing that I'm doing good work, and it's helping towards my overall mission of bringing more light into the world. So that's a kind of full circle. Day 2 was super interesting. I had a very difficult experience in the beginning, and it was fighting some of my working class childhood syndrome of having a lack of money and getting hand-me-down clothes and always being the kid in school that didn't have any pocket money. Everyone else had pocket money. I didn't have pocket money. And so just super, super interesting, interesting journey, interesting experience I was going through. And finally I managed to get through it all. And it turned out to be the most profound night of my entire life. Night number 2, I was almost on trial with the higher being, and it was asking me what my intentions were. There was a big gate, and it wouldn't let me in the gate. It was like, think of it like a high priest and priestesses, or whatever you want to call it, and it was the medicine. And it was like, what are you doing? Why are you bringing all these people here? What's your motive? And my motives had to be pure. And long story short, I was allowed in the gate. And when I was allowed in the gate, I got the biggest downloads of my entire life, and complete divine energy just flooding me. I thought my head was going to explode at some point. I didn't want it to stop, so I was just kind of taking it all in. It's like just a massive ray of energy just flowing through me, and deep gratitude, deep peace. Um, you know, Peter Parker's quote kept on coming up: with great power comes great responsibility. With great power comes great responsibility. And I realized that because I'm organizing these retreats, just because there's 6 experienced shamans in the room, some with 30 years experience, some of the best in the country, I can't just divert that responsibility to them anymore. This is my responsibility as well, and I'm equally as responsible now, by facilitating these things and getting people there. So I realized that, and I realized actually that I wrote down, people believed in me before I believed in me. I've been a leader my whole life, and I never believed in myself, actually, ever. Actually, I've doubled down on myself. You know, I've gone to move to Dubai and started the practice out of nothing, and moved to the US and won awards in my first year for beating every other advisor in the 2,500 advisors, and I was number one. And I built up, practices from scratch. But I've never truly believed in myself, where it's a limitless belief. It's eternal power in a good sense of what I'm capable of. I think power, sadly, with political leaders these days, have been sadly negative words on people misusing power. But true power used in the right way is a gift, and we get to choose whether we're using power in the right way or the wrong way. But I realized I am powerful, and I am a leader, and I'm essentially the leader of leaders in some sense, because everyone I'm bringing are leaders in their own way, and really just absorbing that with no shame, no self-doubt, but to really realize who I am and what I'm capable of, and when using the energy in the right place, how it can change people's lives. So there's a lot of profoundness that was coming from night number 2, just a deep celebration, deep responsibility, and deep love and peace and respect.
Thanks for sharing all that, Sam. I want to start with where you ended. That I heard you referring to what we call imposter syndrome. That even though you've proven it to everyone else, you you didn't feel the power that others felt. You didn't see the light that you were shining. You didn't feel the success. There was still something, a piece missing. Um, it sounds like you found that piece, Piece, that missing puzzle piece just just over the weekend. Um, but I know that's within probably every group where every time we assemble a group of men, the majority of them are feeling this imposter syndrome, and it's one of the things that continues to fuel the treadmill of chasing success and running, as you were saying, in a direction. And it sounds like now you're able to just stand where you are. And I think you'll attract the things you want instead of chasing them. But I just wonder, aside from psychedelics and particular ayahuasca and other mind expanding things, what advice would you have for someone who's feeling the way you were feeling around well, I mean, what would you say to someone if they said, they were listening to this and dude, I was experiencing exactly what you're experiencing. What would you say to someone who has that I'm calling it imposter syndrome, that's not the words you used, but what advice would you have for someone like that?
You know, I've seen so much in these last three ceremonies, and some things I might say, because I'm just a direct person, could sound blunt and negative, but it's not. Um, it's just I'm trying to find a way to articulate to someone that's never done or never wishes to do any type of plant medicine, and how can they understand. And the sad part of it is, my words are external. They're only going to hear my words the same way that if you're fat and you know how to diet, most people don't diet, they stay fat. If you're committing sin and being unfaithful, most people know or advise them to not do that, but they keep doing it. That's because it's external. You have to go deep into the internal. And the good news is you don't need to do plant medicine necessarily, but you probably need to do a 3 to 4 hour meditation session, which is guided, or you need to do a sober, non-psychedelic sound bath, and sound and light bath, where you can go into these deep things. We are all cosmic beings of immense power. And the world, in a biblical sense, we speak of the spiritual and the worldly. This has been said in different forms over millenniums. I've just seen it now. So the imposter syndrome is something that's built up from you as a child. It's your limiting beliefs, because you've been conditioned into a way, whether it's modern schooling system, which was set up in the late 80s and the late 1800s. And the reason why the modern schooling system was set up is because the Industrial Revolution started, and they originally tried to get farmers to fill up the factories. And the farmers eventually said no, and they went back to the farms. And they literally created a schooling system of meritocracy, MBAs, and hierarchy, so people can be conditioned like cows, going through a system, a factory, to get qualifications to fit up these corporate jobs. There's a massive book written on this. It's not coming to my mind right now, but it's everything I'm telling you is the truth. This is what happened. This is the modern schooling system. Ironically, or coincidentally, or interestingly, the schooling system hasn't changed since that was set up. It's changing now. A lot of entrepreneurs I know are homeschooling. They're getting out of the system. They're doing different things. And as more people do that, then there's more social abilities to connect, because you're not just taking someone away from all the social aspects, because you're just homeschooling them, and there's everything else can still happen. So it's changing. We're on a massive shift right now. But the imposter syndrome, for lack of a better word, is just BS that we're feeding ourselves. It's BS that the modern world is feeding us. It's the BS of social media. It's the BS of keeping up with the Joneses. The BS of FOMO. That's what imposter syndrome is. The universe has no good or bads.
Mm-hmm.
If the sun exploded and we all died, that wasn't a bad thing. It just is. The universe, there's no such thing. There's bad people, there's bad actors, but the universe has no good or bad. We are all born as children that grow up, and some of us become amazing people and some of us become bad. The reason why we become bad is of limiting beliefs. It's because of a chain of history repeating itself, and a bad dad leading into a bad dad, or a bad mom leading into a bad mom. We have the ability to change anything we want. Just have to stop and get out of the hamster wheel. I don't care if you're making $20 million a year or $20,000 a year. You're no different. You think money makes you different? That's bullshit. You can have no money and you can be wiser and stronger and more powerful than someone with money because we invented money. It's not even it's I can go on deep rabbit holes about this, but the imposter syndrome is ego, actually. It's ego. It's negative or positive ego. If when you get rid of that ego and you stop and realize that you're capable of anything, so hard to explain on an external standpoint. You really have to be in it,
Yeah.
because my words are just words. Our words are just words. You can't. We understand. We can speak English. We understand what each other are saying. We can communicate and articulate and have a full depth conversation. But we can't get into the internal of these words that I'm saying. I can say the most profound words, and they might sound cool. They might sound poetic, but it doesn't mean anything unless you stop and actually soak those words in. My advice to anyone that has imposter syndrome is you are exactly where you're supposed to be. And no one can tell you otherwise. No one has the right or the audacity to tell you who you are. I've done 3 ayahuasca ceremonies. I am as knowledgeable, capable as a 30-year shaman who's been running that space. I know that for a fact because I was anointed on this last trip and I was let into those gates and I saw a lot. And I probably couldn't have said that on my previous one because I didn't reach that kind of level of enlightenment, but I've seen a lot more now and I'm super interested to see what happens next. I had to work on some things relationship wise and on myself before I was essentially allowed through those gates, I guess, and did a good job of those. And I was accepted the gratitude. Gosh, I'm still thinking, I'm still very much in it, by the way. I just got back yesterday, but I was thinking about the gratitude on day one. And now I'm realizing if I said no, my word's expansion, I wasn't listening to the medicine, but I was completely guided by it. And even accepting that probably led to day 2 to be more pure, to enter the next phase of my life, I guess. I would say to avoid the noise and the social media driven toxic world that we're living in, and to the political divide that we're living in of one side's good, one side's bad, one side's bad, one side's good. It's all just noise and distractions. One of the big things I got was energy transfer. My energy that I'm using to acknowledge someone's political views and bashing the current president or bashing the last president and all this kind of stuff. I could capture the energy and throw it to you instead, and throw it to my wife and throw it to my kids. And we know the external. We know if you scroll on social media, you feel drained. I've seen that energy and how it works. We know we get drained. You get 100 people in a room from different religions, different backgrounds, and different places in the world. And somehow you got them into one room to scroll for an hour. Every single one of them will feel drained.
Mhm.
One can be a billionaire, one can be poor, one can be this, one can be that. They're all going to feel the same extraction of energy. So it's a case of where you're sharing that energy. It's an energy. Yeah. Anyway. Yeah. So does any of that make sense?
It does. It does. I want to talk about this balance between growth and gratitude that it seems like a lot of people grapple with when they've, as you said, had the success and they reach a point where they notice, right? Maybe they pause and they notice that it feels empty. And it's a duality that I think it's reflective of what you were describing of the polarization of the world right now, right? And everything's black and white, right? You're blue or you're red politically. It's we talk the gap in the gain. Everything is one or the other, and that's not how most things are. There's a blending, and I think one of the beautiful traditions that has the yin and the yang, right, is that there's a dot of the opposite within each. that feminine and the masculine, and you're not just one or the other. And I think gratitude and growth can intertwine, and you can have both simultaneously. You don't have to choose, but that's external. And so I'm just curious your thoughts on this. And we don't need to, go on and on about it. But I think by choosing growth and changing your word for the year from expansion to gratitude, it doesn't mean you're dispelling growth or like casting it away as something that's evil. It's just it's incorporated into this bigger thing that is having gratitude. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I wonder, because a lot of people feel like they have to choose presence versus something that takes them out of being present. And I don't think that's I think that's a false choice.
Going to give you one piece of belief
Yes.
that's borderline conspiracy. Everything we've been taught in our life, in the modern worlds, modern to me is anywhere between 100 to 2,000 years. It's modern. If you look at 200,000 years of proven human race, some form, is a lie of what we believe in. Graham Hancock, who I love to follow, on one of the Egyptologists, and speaks about ancient Egypt, speaks of a time where the ancient Egyptians were in complete harmony. The world was in a different place back then. There was a completely different world, and very gratitude based and very enlightened, cosmic, enlightened. Yeah, I believe people can expand. Sure. It's the noise. Expansion without purpose is just noise. Now that noise might lead to a lot of money, and that money might lead to a lot of perceived success, and that success might lead to a divorce and not seeing your kids ever again. What's the trade-off here? Right? Like, do you see what I'm saying right now? Gratitude's expansion. I can tell you right now, on January 12th, this would be the best year I've ever had in my life on a monetary basis. Probably 3x more than any other year that I've had. My best year, my previous best year. Okay. And money's not the focus for me this year. It's pure gratitude. I think we've been told a lie. I've got to be careful on the words that I choose. I'm just going to say this. I know a lot of women that have told me, I wish I had kids earlier. Okay. They're in their mid to late 30s. They were told a lie that they had to get into this career growth mindset and be a badass woman. And now they're trying to have kids. And I know 4 people right now trying to have kids on IVF that are struggling to have children, and they wish that they just had kids at a younger age. Who told them to do that? It's not what they wanted to do. They were told they had to do this and follow some movement. Who created the movement? What is the movement? What are we doing? Everyone's missing the point. They're missing the point. Everyone's missing the point. That's why 76%, 80%, 85%, whatever book you read or whatever quote, every time you see it, let's just say it's more than 50%, but it's a high number, right? Of people in their deathbed wish they lived their entire life differently. Like, what the F is that about? Like, we are wasting away. Money does not. Tutankhamun was found 3,000 plus years later. And guess what? All the chariots and all the gold was still there. He didn't bring it with him. So what are we wasting our time on? When I went into the purity of the medicine and taken on this cosmic journey, money didn't exist. Money's man-made. Newsflash. Lions don't have money. Monkeys don't have money. We've created this. And people live their whole life based on it, based on scarcity, based on not having too much, based on having too much. And then you've seen childhood actors that had early fame either commit suicide or go through heavy drugs. I'm not telling you money's bad. I'm telling you I'm going to have the biggest monetary year of my life. It's just not my focus anymore.
Yeah.
I'm living through purpose. And gratitude was exactly the right word for me. Because expansion done right is expansion run through gratitude. We are all dealing with who we are, why we're here, what's the purpose of all of this. And some people that sadly get caught into that trap for too long end up doing things that get them to escape. And if they get them to escape in the literal sense of the word escape or disappear, it leads to huge financial, huge family impacts of losing someone. And it's all because they're not grounded with gratitude. They're not grounded with purpose. They're missing the point. I must have written that phrase down, missing the point, 50 times in my journal on day 2, the huge revelation that I had. We're all missing the point. Not all of us, but I'd say 95% of us are.
Yeah.
Working 9 till 5. I feel sorry. I feel deep compassion. I'm sure there's some people that might be listening that, are working the traditional big 4 consultancy roles that only see their kids and their wife or spouse, husband or wife, 2 times a week. And I feel for them. I really do. I feel for those people because you're probably going to be one of the 75%. I'm just throwing it out. I'm not telling you to quit your job. I'm just saying, yeah, you're probably going to regret missing your children grow. I know you're putting food on the table and I know you're making huge amounts of income, but it's, you're missing the point. The biggest thing in your life is your family and your friends. It's not the amount of money that you're bringing in to put food on the table. You can have a mansion and your 18-year-old leaves home and you're going to realize that you probably didn't spend enough time with your kids and you can't get those times back. We know it, Mike, because of our access to, 18 summers and different types of training that we get through our network of growth and understanding. But once again, it's the external, we know what we're meant to do and we get caught into it. So I think gratitude is a very, I think that it's an absolute lie that you can't have gratitude and growth together. I think you're going to have more purposeful growth and a better life and a more fulfilled life if you're expanding with gratitude and putting your loved ones first.
I want to talk to you about being a father, and what it, because in addition to animals not having monetary exchange, right? Kids don't either, right? They don't care how much money we make, as long as they have the toys they have in our presence and, you know, are being present with them. Um, that's what matters to them. They're not caught up in the game yet. And I think you see who they are if you're paying attention, if you're not off the majority of the time or consumed in your head when you are with them. Um, you see who they are. They show you who they are,
Hmm.
and I wonder if through this process you've come back to who you were or you discovered who you were. And then I want to just get your thoughts on how do we support our kids, protect our kids, buttress our kids, whatever term you want, so that they can flourish in who they are and not get caught up in this fucking crazy society we live in right now with chasing these things that are not the point.
Well, when I got home yesterday and my kids noticed I was outside and they came running to the car, I saw my kids for the first time. Now, when I did my first journey back in July, I spent time with them for the first time. This is different. Right? It showed me that, I might as well just tell you, we're in the context of kids. I'll quickly tell you. I saw a book this big, massive book, like 2,000 pages. And when you flick a book and you see, all the pages get flickered, right? It showed me every single page of this book, and it was every single frame that I've had with my kids. Unfortunately, they're only 3 and 4, and I'll tell you why. I'll just use the word fortunately in a second. And it showed me with them, and I was either on my phone. So I was looking in each picture of the book as a third person, okay? Third person viewed, fourth person technically, right? 2 kids. And I was either on my phone or I was looking at them in their eyes, but I was thinking about something else at the time. A deal that's about to go through, a deal that didn't go through, what I'm eating for dinner, seeing my buddies later. Why is this taking so much time? I need to go out. I'm running late. All this bullshit. I was thinking, and it showed me every single page. It's a lot of pages. Showed me what I was thinking at the time. Okay. And the message was clear. I'm showing you this now. Your kids are 3 and 4. Imagine I didn't show you this, or imagine you didn't do this and your kids be 18. Here's the kicker. Every moment they shared with you was sacred. They didn't lose. Even when you're on their phone, they still saw daddy the hero. It was me that lost. I was the one, because I was thinking about all this stuff. Their thoughts were only with me. My thoughts were elsewhere. Fast forward 2 ceremonies later, and I'm coming home. I saw their faces, and oh my gosh, it was just night and day. Like, they looked older. I can see that the age 2 days. I can see the different intricacies in their face in the 2 days that they've aged. 2 days. And I hugged them both so much, and I told them that I loved them, and I kept on kissing them in the lips, and just really giving them big kisses and meaningful, and just hanging out. And then my daughter was like, Daddy, we made a massive cave in our room. Come check it out. And I was so tired. And I was like, dude, you've seen it all. You got to walk the walk now. I was like, yes, shit. Okay. Yeah. So I went upstairs and I went in their cave, and I went inside their cave. Huge cave. I don't know. It was pretty cool. They made a mess. I can get in there. I was in the cave myself, man. I'm freaking 6'3", right? And so I'm sitting down, and this goes back to your point, Michael, about they don't have money in their mind. There's nothing else they're thinking about. We're just sitting there, and I was like a little uncomfortable at times, because we're just sitting there, and I was hoping, like, I was thinking about her, like, you're bored and this, but I realized, what the fuck am I doing? Just shut up. Be present. So I was just present in this cave, and we're hanging out. We laid down for a bit. I nearly fell asleep with her, but she wasn't feeling. She's been missing bedtime a lot recently. Afternoon bedtime. She's just got a lot of energy right now, and we hung out for a bit until she said, "Let's go downstairs and check on Mummy, because Mummy's not feeling well right now." And we went downstairs. It wasn't me. It was her. I can't remember the last time, if any time in my life with them, that they've been the one that initiated, let's do something else. It's always been me. And that was massive. And then when it came to bedtime, I mean, this is like, I'll give you let's just say I was sleep deprived. I had to come home early because my wife wasn't feeling well. I had like 2.5 hours of sleep after this huge, profound fripping experience, and I had to get home and I was tired. But I battled through the tiredness and managed to get in a bath myself, cooking everyone dinner in the house, and just really serve because my wife was in bed. And we went back in the cave and we wrote a couple. We read a couple of books, and I was using a little torch to read the books. And I had never, ever, ever read a book the way I did to them. It was super slow. I wasn't rushed. I wasn't just trying to read the book to get them to bed. I was reading this book super slowly, emphasized it was 2 Peppa Pig books. So I was like reading it as if like, hello thing, said Peppa Pig. And I was like, look, really just doing all these different voices for everyone and really emphasizing it. And they're laughing and really like emphasizing the words. And I left that and I was like, fucking hell, that was just so easy to do. They probably received 10x, one of our favorite books, right? 10x is easier than 2x. And I literally gave them 10x of reward just by reading that book slower and with more emphasis than reading the book as a task that I have to do in order to get them to bed. Profound. Just those little impacts. I mean, whether it's a James Clear Atomic Habits, that is one, that's not a degree. That's not like 1% extra. That was like a jump 30% extra what I just did there in terms of value for them. And it's really just cutting out the noise. I came back, I had 60 emails that I needed to address, and I didn't do any of them. I was just like, tomorrow's another day. Everyone's going to understand. I'll just do it tomorrow. Biggest thing important to me right now is my wife and my kids, getting dinner sorted out. She's had a 2 tough days on her own with the kids. This is my time to shine and be present. And so that's what I did. I'm going to try and link it back to what you're saying about the financial aspect of it. And it, it's pretty much embedded in what I was just explaining to you. But when I was with my kids in the cave, and when I'm with my kids, they're not thinking about anything but me. And just being that presence is really what's going to shape their personality and know that they're truly loved. And we don't know what we're doing. We're going to find it's a lagging indicator. We're only going to find out later in life, and you can't quantify or can't pinpoint the moments that change someone for good or bad. But it's being this present with my kids now and being that present with my wife. That's going to be sowing the seeds right now to blossom in the later years, and me getting maximum, like, just really honoring my kids and being so present and giving them extra hugs and extra kisses and saying I love you, and hearing my 4-year-old daughter and my 3-year-old son say I love you back, and just really showing them that I'm going to give them the same the same level of downloads and love and energy that I was receiving, thrown back to them.
Yeah, and as you said, if they're getting 20 or 30% more, you're also getting, compared to before, you're getting 100% more.
Some more.
So,
Absolutely. I never read him a book before. I never read him a book. I never kissed him before. I mean, I kissed him. I've read books, but not to this extent. Giving 1,000% of my energy directly to them. One thing I said as well, talking right in the beginning about pre and post Sam, is when I speak to someone, like when I speak to you right now, and I'm looking into your eyes, you're the only person I care about right now. There's nothing else I'm thinking about. Back before, there was just 20. I used to proud. I thought it was cool I can maintain a conversation and you think that I'm listening to everything, but I'm actually thinking about 20 other things and I'm simultaneously trying to solve equations or problems. But deep inside, they probably knew. They probably knew that I wasn't present. You know, it's like a statement that you said earlier about I can see the change in your eyes or see the light. Maybe that's just because I'm completely present in you. I
Yeah.
don't know where the subconscious could be telling you that. But it was definitely I was thinking it was a cool thing. It wasn't at all. When I see someone, the only thing that matters in my entire life is that person in that frame that I'm in right now. Of course, I love my kids, but they're not here right now. My wife's not here right now. I'm having a conversation with you. I'm going to give you all of my energy.
Yeah. An analogy I've used, I took from a book I read about 5 years ago, is when you're really, really present, like you're describing, it's like listening with 3 ears.
Mm.
And when you listen with 3 ears, you don't just hear what's said, you hear what's unsaid. And so it's the pauses, it's the when you expect them to say something, but they don't, right? And you only pick up on those things when you're really, really present. And the unfortunate thing is a lot of times we're only listening with one ear. We're not even listening with two.
It's true. Yeah.
When we were talking about, I'm going to go back to gratitude, and I wrote down like synonyms that came to mind around gratitude of, you said glad, thankful, appreciative, but that's the external. And I just want to dig a little bit deeper, if you could, to just try to find words for this internal gratitude.
It's a cosmic flow of light and energy. I've seen it. It's real. Yeah. It's running through this earth. It's, it's an abundant and infinite energy source of love. Do you know people have done plant medicine all around the world? Going back to that exercise of 100 people looking at social media, they'll all experience the same thing. People all around the world have defaulted. The one word of life has always gone back to love. It's the universal energy. It's why we're so lost as a human race right now, as we forget that, you know. Um, Part fact again and part conspiracy. Back in the 70s, the war on drugs. I have a feeling back then we were becoming an enlightened state, and they stopped it. They stopped it because the universal energy of love was so abundant, and they went back to control. And 50 years later, or 56 years later, um, with social media and the ease of camera phones and extracting videos and sharing videos, I think when we have the second rising, which I believe is coming, because you can't stop it. You can't stop it. You can't stop a weed breaking through concrete. It's going to happen. Doesn't matter how thick that concrete is. It's coming. There's an endless flow of energy and life, and um, I think second time round we're going to get it. I think there's a massive movement happening, and it's probably going to be a lot more worse stuff before we reach there. Sadly, but it's inevitable. Um, but the word is love. It's energy. That's what it is, and there's no way you can fully see it unless you're in deep meditation or you're in a deep sound bath, or you're taking some form of plant medicine and the guidance of of a shaman or shamans. But yeah, it's love. That is the internal energy flow.
Yeah. It's synchronistic or coincidental, serendipitous that we're having this conversation now, because over the weekend while you were in San Diego doing ayahuasca, I was having some contemplation time, and I was using ChatGPT, the modern uh, digital psychedelic that's not so mind expanding. It only gives you the answer that you prompted, but it was a mastermind GPT that I was I didn't prompt it. I just said, I'm feeling kind of lost. And I, uh, I think I've been feeling this way for almost the last decade since I lost my mother. We started this conversation with grief. And it's not about grief per se. The response it gave me that really resonated, and then it was the kind of continuation to that was around love. Um, but it said you didn't lose yourself. You lost the mirror of your mother that reflected yourself with unconditional love. I'm paraphrasing, right? But, and you didn't have to prove anything to this person. I had amazing parents, particularly my mother. And so she was a human mirror reflecting the true me growing up. And I lost that a decade ago.
It's beautiful.
It was a
Mm.
really powerful reframe for me. And I even continued it into the relationship I have with Heather, who you've met, an amazing woman. And maybe there's some carryover, some correlation between being loved and loving fully. And I mean, obviously, motherly love when they're really, really great at that, um, is a unreasonable standard for other relationships. But when you have that for 35 years and then you lose it, maybe there's some fear of loving in that way again and losing it again, right? Which is external. And I bet what you're thinking is energy and the universe and our lives and love are limitless. And we think of it as a expendable resource that, but money as well, all of it, the more we give, the more we receive. And it comes back to that mirror, right? That it's within, everything we need is within us. And it goes back to what we were saying before, that, you are enough, and that whole imposter syndrome, we have everything we need. The universe is giving us everything we need, and we're just doubting, or we're not trusting. Does that resonate?
Massively. It's like when people say you marry your mother, literally marrying your mother, you're marrying a representation of all the good that you see in your mum, and getting to live that and be with it. You never lost the mirror. Um, and you might have felt like you did, but you didn't. Your reflection of your mum is every time you look in the mirror. It's you, and it's the difference of feeling lost and sad as opposed to a celebration of everything she was and honoring the presence of who she was and the impact that she made in your life. And your purpose in life is to continue that light until you see her again.
Yeah. And I know, having our son 3 years ago, it's been easier, um, to have that reminder that there's a lot of her in me, right? And that even though she's not around to be Bennett's grandmother, there's a lot of her in me that I'm passing on, and I think, um, when it hurts to remember things, sometimes we avoid it, right? But leaning into it and looking in the mirror and talking about her and sharing me fully again, I think it comes back to, my purpose is to be fully me. And I was thinking about this morning, if any of the goals I set out for this year, are successful, what will that result in? And what came to mind just earlier this morning was that I'm fully me. And that's a very nebulous qualitative goal, but I know exactly what it means and I can measure it day to day. Am I fully me? So, we over quantify and measure and optimize to such an extent, but I think what we're discussing is can be even more powerful. It's hard to characterize, it's hard to make meaning of because it's internal, right? It's not external. There's no
Yeah.
benchmarks, there's no, we're creating it as we go, and, when we imagine our future selves, that's the benchmark, right? So authenticity is orientation and alignment towards our future self, not some construct that we've created thus far.
It's good. You're a wise man. I love your quotes. Really, I'm learning a lot from you.
Well, we could talk for hours more. Um, I feel like we're reaching a completion to some extent, and before we do, I'd love to just give you space to summarize or tie this up or share anything else that's on your heart or in your head before we wrap up.
Um, why I do what I do, perhaps, or why I'm on this new journey. I received a text yesterday from one of the guys that you know well in there. Um, he said, "Brother, I woke up in tears this morning, crying like a little baby, overwhelmed with so much emotions, so much joy. I feel reborn, and I finally feel so alive, so free. This weekend has been the happiest experience I've ever had in my life. So pivotal, so transformational. I'm that weed trapped underneath that concrete, seeking that glorious sunlight. You, my friend, showed me the path. You are that rare gardener that saw beauty in things ignored and undesired. You are the steward of the light, the bringer of sunshine. I can clearly see this and is your true calling. You are a spirit guide. I see you, Sam. I love you, man." And I told him I was saving that message as a little pocket of sunshine for me to remember, because in this crazy, fast paced world that we live in, it's easy to forget and go back to the norms. But finishing off where I was starting, that's my one of my newfound purposes, to see transformations like that, and keep being a representation of that to my family and my friends and to strangers. You know, just because you don't know someone doesn't mean they're irrelevant and not worthy of a smile or a hello. It could be the biggest thing that they had that entire day or that week or even that year.
How does this change your motivation or dedication to the money making ventures you have underway that have been challenging for the last few years and now some close to the finish line and I know you're dividing your energy and time amongst several things, but you're not becoming a monk, right? You're not retreating to the hills and just going to meditate all day and that doesn't do any good to the world, right? So maybe that's an interesting sort of tie it all back together. When you go through a transformation like this, sometimes it's easy to say no to the things you were doing before and just 100%, right, pursue this thing to the exclusion of everything else. And I think then you're also missing the point.
Yeah. So,
So
so beautiful.
how do you integrate all of this so that you don't lose what you had before that you want to keep and incorporate this new perspective, this new view, this new brighter light?
Yeah. So beautiful, man. Um, when I went to church in Dubai, um, I went to Nepal and I went to an orphanage and I came back and I said to a really good friend of mine, still a very close friend of mine, I said, I'm quitting my job and I'm going to move to Nepal and I'm going to work at the orphanage. And he said to me, Sam, in the Bible, there are people that serve and there are kings. You are a king. Your job is to continue the work you're doing so you can give to millions rather than hundreds. So I didn't quit, carried on working, ended up moving to New York and continued to build until we get to where we are now. I'm not slowing down. I'm actually going all in that sense of what all in is. I'm an all in person, but I believe that I've been gifted the opportunity to work with the best people in the US that serve ayahuasca without being a shaman myself. Now, with great power comes great responsibility. You told me to bind a bow on this. So I still have, it's not a cop out. I still have the full responsibility, but I get to be what I like to call a cosmic connector, or as my dear friend, I'll hide his name on this one, but was saying a bringer of light while still keeping in the growth realm and building something which could be potentially huge and to give the multiples of my fortune away to the orphanage and to different places that I can change the world. So I'm very much realigned on this journey. I might have been a senseless cow or kind of sheep, kind of going on this trail, still moving the right way, but kind of blind. Now I'm awakened and I can continue on the same path. Fortunately, I wasn't steering off into some cornfield somewhere. I'm still very much on the same path, which is amazing and fortunate, but I'm now filled with gratitude and purpose. So maybe I've found a beautiful hack. I don't know, but I'm very much a monk, if you want to associate that word, or a shaman-esque, but able to keep it within the growth realm of business and allow the true shamans and facilitators to facilitate those and continue doing the amazing work they do. And who knows? Sell the business, everything's done, might be a natural path for me to take down the road. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah. Well, I know it's changed through your relationship with your kids, your relationship with your wife, your relationship with business, your relationship with your friends. So I'm glad you started this journey and you are where you are. And I think you have another you have another retreat this coming weekend. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I won't get in the habit of doing two back to back, but it was very popular. The demand on the first one, and there are two different types of beautiful, both amazing people, but two different types of shamans and facilitators, two groups. I'm going back this weekend with another equally as gifted and profound and experienced as this weekend's different type of flavor. You know, I love ballet, opera, but I also love house music, and they're all music, but they're very two different types of music. And so just looking forward to seeing them administer the medicine in a different way, and yeah, and bring in another group of awesome people, both feminine and masculine energy. There's been I don't think I'll ever be able to get it perfectly 50-50, but it's awesome to see women joining these ceremonies too, and getting the feminine energy in the room. So yeah, I'm super excited to to get back into the medicine again after a week, and yeah, see what insights I receive.
Beautiful. Any closing thoughts or parting words today?
Yeah, I really honor you, Michael. You're an exceptional human, exceptional being, and I'm just grateful to be your friend.
Thank you so much. I just want to end with if people want to reach out to you, if you're open to that, what's a good way to find you, email or social media or anything like that?
I'm pretty old school. I was developing an app, one of my startups, to kind of change the fabric of the toxic social media world that we're in. So I'm kind of minimal on social media. Still on the Facebook account, like all of us are old guys born in the 80s and beyond. But probably the easiest way is just my email, perhaps, to people that do that.
Sure.
Yeah, just Sam at Syed, Syed, financial.com.
Perfect.
Sam at Syed, Syed, financial.com. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Sam, thank you so much for spending this time with me today.
Yeah, man. Thank you. This was fun and very enlightening. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. We'll do it again sometime.
Yeah, man.
You've been listening to Performance Lab. I'm Dr. Michael Donovan, reminding you that peak performance is a journey, not a destination. For more cutting edge insights and actionable tips, subscribe to our podcast and follow us on social media. Until next time, keep pushing your limits and stay tuned to the Performance Lab.